News 6 is serious about driving change in our state's texting and driving laws. And this year's legislative session is getting underway soon in Tallahassee. So last night, News 6 anchor Matt Austin hosted a digital town forum with a panel of law enforcement officials, safety experts, politicians, advocates, and victims, all in an effort to push our state lawmakers to toughen our distracted driving laws. One safety expert pointed out that change shouldn't necessarily start with bigger fines, but with individual drivers.
Alex, what can we do about this? You know, where are we at in this fight in Florida?
Well, it's all about education and getting people to realize that their behavior has an impact on other people. What we really want is everyone to acknowledge their own behavior and try and change the way that they drive instead of focusing solely on other people. It's in your hands, that cell phone, or the device, or distracted driving in general. So you should try and focus on the actual task of driving.
Yeah, and let me be completely honest. Before all this happened to me, I have texted and driven. And you know what the stupid thing that went through my mind was? And I hate even saying it now, but I feel like I need to be honest. I'm just a better driver than most people. I can handle it. Isn't that the most common kind of issue? We all just think we're good enough to be able to handle this?
Well, since last October, News 6 has shown you the dangers of texting and driving, particularly in our state, pushing for change to strengthen our state laws. Well, tonight, a showdown of sorts, police versus politicians. We went to Tallahassee and confronted some of our political leaders to ask them about the law. Then we asked two of Central Florida's top cops what they thought about texting and driving in our state. Sheriff Mike Chitwood of Volusia County.
Distracted driving is just, it's costing people their lives, it's costing people their quality of life.
And Sheriff Jerry Demings of Orange County.
We've got to do something to make our roads more safer for everyone.
Each has a strong opinion about Florida's texting and driving law.
It's almost impossible to enforce as a secondary enforcement act.
Especially the part that mandates police can only pull over a driver for texting after witnessing another infraction.
I believe that we would have a benefit if it became a primary offense.
Simply put, they don't like it.
Government needs to pass laws that keep their citizenry safe.
Aside from wanting the law changed from secondary to primary enforcement, Chitwood has another gripe, not being able to access a driver's phone to see if texting could have played a role in a crash.
It takes an act of Congress to, in a fatal accident, to get a search warrant, to go back to check the cell phone to see if at the time of the accident texting was going on, it distracted the driver and played into this.
Representative Richard Stark of Broward County shed some light on why law enforcement has such little power to search a driver's cell phone.
One of the Miami legislators put something in the bill, and what did it say? It says that police cannot take a look at your driving records unless there's death or they defined how bad an injury would be.
That's your texting records of your phone.
Right.
The two men, who have a combined 65 years of law enforcement experience between them, also don't buy one specific excuse some politicians put forth to limit enforcement of texting while driving: the fear that primary enforcement will be abused as a catch-all and give police another excuse to pull over minorities.
I think right now, the way it's structured, until it's structured in a manner that can eliminate some of the abuse, I couldn't support it being a primary offense.
I don't stop someone based upon what color of their skin, and most law enforcement officers don't stop people based on the color of their skin. They stop people based on the violation of law that they observe.
The ultimate goal here is to keep the motoring public and the pedestrian public as safe as humanly possible. And if there is a device out there, such as cell phones, that's contributing to severe injuries and death, why aren't we doing something to cut it off? And we need the law and the tools to do that.
So the takeaway from all this, every single law enforcement officer I've spoken to says we need to have primary enforcement for police to effectively enforce these laws. Currently, we have 3 texting bills presented this legislative session in Tallahassee. None of them, however, have been debated in committee.
April 1st is the start of AAA's Distracted Driving Awareness Month, and we here at News 6 have been pushing for tougher texting and driving laws since last year.
One of the political allies in this fight has a personal story to tell. It shows just how dangerous distracted driving can be and why we're working to drive change.
I looked into my twin sister's eyes, and she looked scared. We all looked scared.
Florida State Representative Emily Schlossberg
Nobody said anything, and about 15 seconds later, we get into the crash.
Relives the horror of a night that changed her life.
The next thing I know is I wake up in the hospital bed in the trauma unit of Delray.
And you were 14?
I was 14 years old.
So did you say there were 9?
There was 9 people in the car.
In what kind of car?
A two-door Honda Civic.
Wow. 21 years ago, on this stretch of road in Boca Raton, a 19-year-old driver slammed his car into a pole, then spun head-on into oncoming traffic. 5 teenagers lost their lives that night. One of the dead teens was Representative Schlossberg's twin sister, Dory.
There's nothing that I can do to go back and get my sister to come back. I'll never get her back. But it's what I could do after to honor her memory, and I'm going to do everything I can.
Schlossberg is one of a growing number of Florida politicians calling for tougher laws to combat distracted driving. Last month, AAA released statistics focused on motorists of different age groups. Its conclusion, young millennials top the list of worst behaved drivers. Dangerous driving behavior includes speeding, running red lights, and texting. In 2015, deaths caused by distracted drivers across the country increased 8.8% over the year before, jumping from just under 3,200 to almost 3,500. Closer to home, the Florida Highway Safety and Motor Vehicle Division noted in 2015 distracted driving played a role in 16.2% of injuries from crashes and 7.3% of all statewide fatal accidents. For Schlossberg, the accident that claimed her twin and almost killed her still resonates with her today.
Cell phones, with all the apps, the Snapchat, the Facebook, the texting, it's incredibly more dangerous. There's more distractions than ever on our roads.
Are you still impacted from the wreck? Have any of the injuries lingered for you?
Physically, I'm okay. Yeah. But you know, every day I know what my mission is. I'm not confused. I know some legislators come up for certain reasons, and I have a personal reason, and I have no confusion, and I'm totally focused.
Representative Schlossberg is the primary sponsor of one texting bill and a co-sponsor of another. Unlike her companion bill in the Senate, neither of her bills has even been heard by any of the subcommittees they have been assigned to. So what's your personal story? How has distracted driving affected your life? Share it with us right now on clickorlando.com/drivingchange. Just click on the link and share your story.
We are in the closing weeks of the Florida legislative session, and texting and driving will remain a secondary offense in the state, at least for the immediate future.
So in our quest to help drive change, we've been putting pressure on lawmakers for the past 7 months to change our feeble law. Our persistence may be starting to pay off. Political leaders finally listening.
Progress.
We do have a workshop this morning that we're going to hear regarding distracted driving.
May be considered a little too late, but progress nonetheless.
So there's not really any time for us to be able to get this done this legislative session, but I think that this workshop today was a good sign that the leadership is interested in tackling this issue.
On Monday, the House Government Accountability Committee held a meeting inviting law enforcement, advocates, and the public for input on changing Florida's texting and driving law.
The theory of general deterrence states that when a driver's discomfort or concern for being stopped outweighs the desire to disobey the law, then they comply with the law. As I said during testimony, the law that we currently have on the books is toothless. An officer cannot proactively take action to stop someone texting and driving. It always has to be reactive after they've already done their damage.
There have been 4 texting bills introduced this session. Only one, Senate Bill 144, got any traction, but only made it through 2 of 5 committees. No bills were heard by any committees in the House.
Between the AAA and AARP, we have millions of people that are asking you to please make a change in the law. Move our texting while driving from a secondary to a primary offense.
Distracted driving causes traffic crashes. Regardless of what they're doing, whether they're trying to get directions somewhere while they're operating a motor vehicle, traveling down the highway, it's a distraction. It takes away, their mind, their thoughts, their manual. They're taking a hand off the wheel. They're not concentrating on driving.
I'd be lying if I said this wasn't frustrating. You would think, hey, with this sudden interest yesterday in texting and driving, maybe the House could get some committees together, push through a debate, get some work done. Well, today was the last day committees can meet. The next 2 weeks of session will be spent hammering out bills and voting on them to become laws. And
so what is it going to take?
That's the question.
Yeah.
I don't know. So in that meeting, they decided they're going to issue a study. Okay. At the beginning of all this, they said, well, we want to look at the numbers. Now at the end, they're saying, well, we want to look at some numbers.
Okay.
So really not much has changed.
So they're going to do the study.
They're doing a study. The results are supposed to be posted this summer. And we'll see what happens from there.
See if they'll take any action. As you said, though, it takes someone lobbying them, spending money to get them in support of something.
It's usually the way it works.
We'll see if it happens. The trend continues. Florida lawmakers manage yet again to avoid passing texting and driving laws that might actually keep you safer on the roads.
50,000 crashes in Florida last year caused by distracted driving. So I went to Tallahassee last week to ask why they refused to make this a priority. This time around, though, we had some unexpected backup. A dad whose son was killed by a distracted driver. He wanted answers too, and he crashed our interview to get them.
The challenge has been there hasn't been a consensus reached on it, and so let's reach consensus and move forward.
Consensus around hands-free. Can I ask one more question?
Sure, we can talk. Sure.
Listen, my son was killed by distracted driving.
It's horrible.
It is horrible, but every day 11 people are dying. Every day. If this were a terrorist organization, you would be doing everything you could to stop them. But I don't see you doing anything right now. So can you tell me why?
Sir, we're not going to have this conversation here.
Why not?
Because we're just not. I appreciate it, sir.
Can you answer my question?
So tomorrow I'm going to try to explain a system lawmakers are using to keep meaningful legislation from happening. Basically, they want to bore you so you stop paying attention. We think you should know about it. And I stood with that dad in the gallery right outside the House floor as we watched everybody huddled around screens and very excited about matters that were more about business than saving people's lives. He was extremely frustrated, and I share his frustration.
Well, and it's, you know, you just have to trace the money and what organizations and lobbyist groups are paying lawmakers to prioritize.
It's just not a topic that has money behind it.
Yeah.
So this is what we're finding, but hopefully I think you'll find it very interesting what we have to share with you tomorrow night at 6 o'clock about this very topic. Well, tonight I want to tell you about something happening in Florida you may find as an abomination of democracy. It's called a subcommittee. I know you just fell into a vocabulary-induced coma, and that's what politicians are hoping for. So I'm going to break this down into terms anyone can stay awake to and show you why efforts to strengthen texting and driving laws have failed up to this point. So we're going to use brackets like we use in sports playoffs to illustrate how committees can silence your vote. This is truly March Madness. Okay, so to become a law, a bill normally needs to make it through the House. This side is going to be our House, and a similar version has to come from the Senate. That's over on this side. As the bill progresses through committees and subcommittees, they eventually will meet in the middle to become law. The House version had 3 committees to get through. You can see them on this side. The Senate version had 4. The common ground versions are then molded into a kind of championship bill, which you'll see right here. It then gets voted on. But that's not what happened this session. Some of those committees and subcommittees, they didn't want to play the game at all. And this is how bills get stuck. Only 2 committees heard the bill on the Senate side. That's what happened. It was a dominant performance. No committee heard texting and driving legislation on the House side. Not one. They never discussed it one time. That's it. Game over. Debate on the bills never came up again. Cinderella story finished. Here's a rep who wrote one of those bills.
It gets locked in that drawer, and the chairman just doesn't pull it out of the drawer.
And that's it.
And that's it.
It's done. We're done for the whole session.
It's dead in the drawer.
God bless America. Way to go, democracy. No one ever talks about your bill.
Nobody ever talks about it.
That is not democracy. Democracy is not at work here. What we have at work here is money. Money is the only thing that moves legislation.
While I was in Tallahassee, I met Demetrius Branca. A distracted driver killed his son Anthony 2 years ago. Now he spends a lot of time at the Capitol.
It's incredibly difficult sometimes to wake up in the morning and know that he's not there, but that motivates me to get up, get my feet moving, and get here and talk to some of these people who are entrenched in their ideology and won't do the right thing for Florida.
In the gallery of the Capitol, as I tried to ask lawmakers why they can't make meaningful laws,
Branca could not help but join in on the interview.
To me, it just gives the illusion. Hi, my name is Demetrius Branca. I'm sorry. My son was killed by a distracted driver.
This guy was really impacted.
I'm happy to talk to you, but I prefer to do it off camera if I could. No, I just heard something you said, and I wonder where that comes from. You said the data's inconclusive. I'm more than happy to have this conversation with him.
He's more impacted than I am.
I'm more than happy to have a conversation with him.
So you might say at the end of the day, maybe these committees were just too busy to ever look at the bills. So you want to know what some of them talked about? How about a license plate that has an eagle on it? 4 other specialty license plates made it through a committee. They also discussed the sign height requirements in Broward County, but that committee that passed all of those through never had the time to talk about texting and driving, something that affects every Floridian.
And we'll say it again, one of the reasons why a lot of the bills get the support that they get in the state legislature is because there are lobbyists behind those efforts who have contributed to various campaigns that all of a sudden these bills and these efforts become a priority for
lobbyist-heavy bills like, say, the liquor wall we saw the other day. That one got 6 hours on the floor as opposed to 0.
Another popular bill that a lot of parents have been fighting for, recess. Again, it was brought up in the Senate, but no mention in the House this year.
Not much behind
recess in schools.
Yes.
But first, News 6 is getting results and driving change. Tonight, lawmakers officially filed a bill to make texting while driving a primary offense. Good evening, everyone. I'm Ginger Gadsden in for Matt Austin.
And I'm Lisa Bell. So that means if the bill is passed, you could get pulled over just for texting. It is the result of a 14-month-long mission by our own anchor Matt Austin after he was hit by a young man who police say was texting while driving.
Now, I can't tell you everything that happened that night because my baby's car seat slammed so violently into the back of my head, it knocked me out, gave me a severe concussion, and 10 staples in my scalp.
Since then, Matt and our News 6 team have been to Tallahassee pushing for stronger texting laws. State lawmakers say they needed to see the data, so we gave it to them. And as News 6's Nadine Yanis reports, we are now getting results. She joins us live now. And Nadine, Matt really worked with a state representative who had a personal mission to make the roads safer and got this bill filed today.
He did. He teamed up with State Representative Emily Schlossberg. Like Matt, she too was involved in a distracted driving crash. That one took the life of her twin sister. Last legislative session, she introduced a bill with Matt's help trying to toughen our texting laws, but was stonewalled in Tallahassee. It didn't go anywhere. But she says with her persistence and with Matt's persistence here at News 6, they're now getting driving change, and House Bill 33 was officially filed today.
In his push for driving change, News 6 anchor Matt Austin teamed up with State Representative Emily Schlossberg, joining her mission to stop distracted driving at the very spot where her twin sister and 4 friends were killed in a crash back in 1996.
The reason that I'm here is to ensure that others don't go through what my family and I went through.
Schlossberg became a state representative for the sole purpose of making Florida's roadways safer. Right now in the state, texting behind the wheel is a secondary offense. You could only get a texting ticket if a police officer pulls you over for something else. In the last legislative session, Schlossberg's bill to toughen that law went nowhere. And that's where she says News 6 helped change that this year.
I have to really commend News 6 for helping provide this office with data, with statistics, with numbers, because they were up here, I'd say probably 2 or 3 times last session, really helping out.
It was in Tallahassee Matt Austin confronted Florida lawmakers, never letting up on the gas.
And you don't think the roads are dangerous right now?
I understand what your questions are doing right now, and your angle here, but understand that I'm all for looking at the data.
News 6 provided that data to lawmakers, including the Speaker of the House himself, showing stricter texting laws save lives. Schlossberg says she now has the support, some big backing on a big bill. This year, she is confident will pass.
Let me tell you something. News 6, you're getting results. I believe my twin sister is looking down and smiling at this. Like, she's incredibly proud. So it's very emotional, and I'm very excited.
So Matt Austin also worked with local law enforcement, even traveled to Tallahassee with them to get this bill filed and hopefully passed. We're going to get reaction from FHP. They're also going to break down the bill on what it would mean for you behind the wheel if it gets passed. But Lisa, what we're hearing is that everyone is confident that Matt got some results for us today.
Nadine Yanis reporting live for us. Thank you. And our coverage does not stop here. This is clickorlando.com/driving-change. And there you can learn more about our efforts to make distracted driving a primary offense. And you can share your story with News 6. Again, that's at clickorlando.com/driving-change.
It will be our mission to help drive change in Florida's impotent texting laws. And no, it's not because I got hurt. Lots of people are getting hurt. When we started our Driving Change campaign last fall, it was, to say the least, an uphill climb. Last session, 2 House bills never even made it out of their committees. But now, with research in hand and studies from other states, House Speaker Richard Corcoran is 100% behind a new bill that he believes will end up on the governor's desk.
What we've done is just take the texting and driving ban that we had as a secondary offense and moved it to a primary offense.
But House Bill 33 is more than that. The latest effort to strengthen enforcement of the state's ban on texting and driving has a number of enhancements. If passed, the new law would add 3 points to your license for a second offense within 5 years of the first. Add 2 points to your license for any texting and driving offense in a school zone. And add a whopping 6 points to your license if the act of texting and driving causes a crash. Corcoran also made sure the bill addressed the possibility of racial profiling brought up by a number of officials in both the House and the Senate.
Well, I think the biggest issue, and historically justifiably, is that this is going to allow another venue for people who are not acting principally to pull people over without cause. There's already laws that say that you have to have policies in place for your law enforcement officers that protect from that kind of behavior.
The new bill also has bipartisan support. Jackie Toledo for the Republicans and Emily Schlossberg for the Democrats.
I'm the only walking survivor of the crash.
Emily Schlossberg, who lost her twin sister in a car accident, has been an advocate for this for some time.
The only reason I'm here is because I want to make sure that others don't go through what I and my family went through. We have to do something. It might not
The
be
Speaker also singled out News 6 for our work in bringing this problem of texting and driving to light.
Hats off to you guys. I think you guys do a good job of making people aware of what's going on, what's not being done, and what needs to be done. And so I think that it's been correctly reported that you guys have had a great impact on making improvements to our state.
Speaker Corcoran also told me today, as the father of 6 kids, 2 of his teens are now driving. He says he doesn't allow his own kids to drive with their cell phones. So good to see things are moving in the right direction. Wheels are turning.
I'm stunned because you went after him and he was not giving you the time of day.
Yeah.
And you're like, come on, dude. He said, no. He almost ran away.
And now
he's like on board.
He looked up the stuff and he agrees.
I love it. I mean, you never see.
You never see politicians.
God bless him, man.
You gotta tip the cap to him for sure.
For real.